welcome to another episode of Clicks and Commerce with me, Yananai, and my co-host, Fran Tony. Fran Tony, what's up?
Good. How are you, man? Excited to have you both here. Welcome, Tomasz. Been wanting to record this episode for a while. How you doing?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. It's great. It's been a great week.
Especially with you here now. Super excited to have you here. You obviously know one of the biggest reasons is because you are part of the reason why this podcast actually started, because Fran Tony and I met in PPC Profit Club, which we will talk about a bit more towards the middle of the talk. I don't want to call it an interview. It's more of a talk. It's more of chopping it up. But how have you been? How's your week been? How's your year been?
It's been crazy, man, honestly. So I've just been swept off my feet with the amount of news, AI stuff. I've been trying to keep up with everything in the AI space, honestly. So I'm working on a workshop right now, AI workshop, that I'm going to do early April, which has been just crazy. Like the response from that, it's something that people really want.
Yeah.
I just sent out an email like, hey, do you guys want this? Because I've been using some AI workflows for a while in my accounts. And I just said, hey, you want me to put on a workshop and show you how I do it? And got a ton of replies. So I've just been working hard on that and trying to, improve it with all the new stuff that's coming out, right? Like it's crazy. It feels like every day, and it's the same in Google Ads too, right? Not just in AI, like in Google Ads, it feels like, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like every day there's something new now.
Sometimes even the clients are the ones showing me like new updates. I'm like, oh, did you see this? I'm like, oh, wow, I'm actually in here every day and I actually missed that. So it's evolved a lot. They're really improving their product.
True.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, go on.
Well, it was still getting into the flow of having a guest on the show and learning how to deal with a guest. So sorry about that. Learning pains. But I was actually going to say that one of the things that I've been doing is actually downloading CSVs from different campaigns and then turning them into JSON files so that ChatGPT and these other AI LLMs can actually process them, and just asking what it's seeing in the data. And it will tell you things that would have taken you weeks to see. So it's actually crazy how this whole thing is advancing.
100%. Yeah. So that's what a lot of the workshop will be around, actually, is basically that disconnect. So the way I see it is like a bridge. There's like a bridge between where most people are, which is being like confused and overwhelmed by all this AI stuff, to like actually using it day to day. And it's not going to focus on AI agents or automation or like all this sort of stuff, which is like super advanced. It's just going to focus on more, like, as you guys know me, like I always focus on tactical stuff, like stuff you can apply right now. Because for me, like I see a lot in the industry of exciting stuff, but not necessarily stuff that you could apply right now. And that's what I find. Like, I don't want people to just buy my products. I want people to actually apply them and get results.
So speaking of that, we want to talk about why people actually listen to what you say, because like you said, once you talked about the AI thing, a lot of people signed up. You've got a bit of a reputation in the PPC Google Ads world. So take us into your journey. How long have you been doing this? The companies that you've been working with, I know you've worked with Huel, you've worked with Domino's, these big companies. Tell us about how you started, how you got there, and how it is working with those type of brands.
Yeah, so I've been in PPC almost a decade now. I've worked across, I get asked a lot about lead generate ecom. So I've worked across both a lot. I've also worked freelance agency, in-house, like all the sides of the table, so I can talk from all perspectives, which I think a lot of people find very helpful. And my career's been a mix really of freelance agency and in-house. So worked with a ton of really huge brands and then worked with a ton of really small brands as well. So I've really seen probably more Google Ads accounts than most people will in their lifetimes. So I've seen all the mistakes that get made and all the differences between, an account spending, for example, $1,000 or $2,000 a month compared to an account spending like $1 million a month, right?
I wanted to touch on that, like $1 million account months. Like, would you say the gap is massive in terms of like, how frequently you have to make certain technical changes, or just how fast the machine learns? Because what I've seen from working on like the smaller accounts and the bigger accounts, at least for me, the thing that seems overwhelming is the amount of campaigns that are actually being ran in some of these larger accounts. And how have you found like ways to just be more efficient and optimizing an account with 100 campaigns, for example?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think one of the myths that comes up a lot with really big accounts is that you're managing everything yourself. And that's something I see a lot is like, around this whole idea that you have to be a tracking level 100 tracking expert now as a PPC. And that's where I say, if you're on bigger accounts, that typically isn't the case, because a lot of the time you have specialists around you in those certain areas, right? So you might have a creative team who's working on a lot of the creative. You might have a tracking or a web dev team that's working on a lot of more the technical tracking, website, landing page stuff. And of course, you're going to be sort of managing those people a lot of the time, and you're going to be sort of the captain of the ship of the account, right? So you are still managing it and scaling it and setting the strategy. But yeah, it's a lot more about communication at that point rather than technical skills. I would think of it as like big accounts like that spend, say, a couple of 100,000 a month. It's probably 70% communication and like 30% technical skills. And in terms of mistakes, and you asked there about, changes, it's kind of crazy because literally like one change can like waste or add more spend or more revenue than like most brands like do in a whole year, right?
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's where you hear the horror stories as well, right? Like, I forgot to change the budget, spend like 40K in one day. So yeah.
That's
The
actually
budget thing
crazy.
is crazy because there's like I was actually just working on like a budget report video training that I'm doing all around budgets because it's something that comes up a lot that people struggle with. And what I would say, to give you, I guess, a little bit of an insight into part of like a module, what I'm working on is like budget redundancy, as I would call it. So especially on those bigger accounts, it's really important to have multiple layers of budget redundancy. So what would that look like? Well, that would look like checking it from multiple sources. So if your third-party budgeting tool isn't connected, isn't updating for whatever reason, which I've had so many times, you don't just glance at the numbers and then go, cool, everything's okay. It's actually checking it in platform, checking it in the budget report, the hidden one inside Google Ads. It's checking it in your third-party tracker. It's maybe checking it with other teams as well, that everything's pacing okay. It's having a custom column for pacing per day, per month. And then it's also on top of that, maybe 4 or 5 levels of redundancy I would personally do. It helps me sleep better at night. Like, I know nothing's going to go wrong. I would also add on top of that, checking manually myself as well, just to make sure nothing's being missed in that process. So checking, like just literally clicking yesterday's spend, last 7 days spend, dividing by 7. For whatever reason, your custom column might not be working. It's just like all those things where on an account spending 1 or 2,000 a month, it wouldn't really matter, right? It might only underspend, overspend like a couple of dollars. So it's not really going to make a difference. But with those accounts, like, yeah, as I said, it could be a crazy amount, like if it's overspending or underspending. So the budget is like a massive part of it.
That's a pretty thorough process.
Huge.
What I also want to understand is, how do people take it? Because you work as a freelancer. So how do people take it when you come in and they already have a PPC team and now you're integrating yourself as the professional, and they obviously feel like they're the professionals and they've been looking at these accounts every single day and focusing on this one particular account. And then this outsider comes in and says, what you're doing is wrong, or do it this way and you'll get more profit. How does that work?
Yeah, I always say 2 eyes is better than 1, or 2 sets of eyes is better than 1. It's not about right or wrong though. It's not about proving someone wrong or proving someone right. It's just that, if you had something wrong with you, you would go to 2 doctors, right? If you'd maybe be skeptical if you just had 1 doctor, right? Because it's just going to come from their experience, their perspectives, right? So if you had something really wrong with you, you would probably take a second opinion. It's kind of the old phrase, right? And that's always the mindset I go in with. Is, of course, I get challenged sometimes on big accounts, and that's all it is. It's a brainstorming session, right? It's a sparring partner, as I call it. I consult on a lot of big accounts where I'm sometimes not the main person running the account. I'm just an external consultant. I'm helping out on strategy or a certain part of the account. And there's a lot of people and a lot of processes that I need to follow and I need to fit into. So my number one first question is basically, how big is your team? Where do you see the gaps? Where do you, see yourself? Like, what are your responsibilities? Just really understanding like a lay of the land first. It is super important. What I would call like clarity, like client clarity.
Okay.
That's really
Interesting.
It's really big because, when you decide to, and we'll talk more about this side when we cover the PPC Profit Club, is like the experience of a specialist, because you may have some like confidence issues, like working on these big accounts when you jump on calls? Like I know, for example, my first time jumping on calls with like 10 people, and then I had to speak. It was like, oh wow, you have people like you mentioned, literally sparring every single word that you mentioned. So how have you like maybe internally prepped before a call, and how have you noticed the communication change from like one size business to another?
Yeah, I find the casual conversations with clients so important here. Like just jumping on a call with them and not necessarily talking about performance, just asking them about other areas of the business, what's happening in the wider business. Like, are there any product launches coming up? Are you planning to change a service in the next 6 months? Are we going to do a big push for Black Friday? Like all this stuff is all data points for you that put things in perspective. Right. And a lot of the time, through no fault of our own, Google Ads specialists are kind of left out of that. So you have to make a conscious effort to actually talk to the client more, and not just about Google Ads, to ask them about the wider business, what's going on. And then you're going to be so much more in the know. Right. And it's just going to make everything so much easier. Another thing I would say is asking your North Star metric early on is super important. Right. Like we've all seen this. We've all talked about this a lot. Asking, is ROAS your North Star metric? Is it new customer CPA? Is it CPA? Is it a certain revenue number per month? Like every single business is different, and their budget is also determined differently as well. So it's really important to know that North Star metric, because I've had times where I've gone into those calls, as you said, where there's 10, 15, 20, even 50 people, and you're expected to present, but you're not really sure what to present. And you end up often just sort of rattling off like a report, right? And just kind of going through the numbers. Oh, this is week on week. This is month on month. And after you do that a few times, you actually start to understand or realize, or somebody maybe nudges you and say, hey, actually, no one really cares, right? And that was a realization for me a lot of times, where it's kind of just wasting everybody's time, right? And again, it's not through any fault of your own, but finding out that number one sort of, I would say, make or break metric, and then you can really go deep on that. So, going deep on ROAS or new customer CPA or new versus existing customers, spending 10 or 20 minutes in a call just talking about that and what changes you've made is going to be so much more useful for the client than talking about, click-through rate. Like most clients don't care about click-through rate,
no
right?
cares,
Like it doesn't really. I literally had a dream about click-through rate last night. That's why I'm mentioning it. It's super funny.
No, you did not. No, you did not.
Yeah, I actually did. I was just thinking that it was real, but I think it was just a dream I had. It was around, like, I've been thinking a lot about B2B and SaaS recently, and how they rely a lot on click-through rate. And we often sort of say, hey, like, we've got a great click-through rate actually, and then time on site as well is often a session time people look at. And actually what I've been trying to optimize, especially with PPC Profit Club, is looking at time on site, and basically looking at, you kind of want to get a medium, right? Because if it's too high time on site, then they're not finding what they want actually a lot of the time. Sometimes they're just browsing, but a lot of the time, especially if it's from paid ads, they're not finding what they need quick enough. So maybe that's a navigation problem. Maybe your landing pages aren't relevant enough. And we see that a lot with Google Ads. So I've been looking into click-through rate and like time on site a ton recently. And that's a great example where, more doesn't mean better, right? Like just because your click-through rate's super high, if your conversion rate is really low, then actually maybe you're just driving the wrong traffic, right? And maybe your ad is too good to be true as well. Because I see that a lot too, where you get super high click-through rate, and it's just people click through, and it's not what they expect.
And that's the that's the real value of the specialist. And I'll let Yana take over, because I know he has one question. Is piecing the dots together, just like you mentioned, like, hey, you have a high click-through rate, maybe this is happening, maybe that's what we're offering to our clients now in this AI world more than ever. Because as we're seeing, you're not pushing the buttons anymore. You actually have to connect the dots and actually think about the problem, come up with a hypothesis, and prepare a plan to execute based on that hypothesis. But yeah, I know you have a question.
It's not really a question. It's more of, how do you compete with a person who actually dreams about Google Ads? Because I have not reached the level of where I'm dreaming about click-through rates.
No,
that is scary. Because everybody has 24 hours, but like 10 hours is you working. Now he's working overtime in his dreams as well. So yeah, that is scary.
Imagine strategizing while he's sleeping.
Exactly. So my questions now actually get into PPC Profit Club. tell us about that. What is PPC Profit Club? We have our experiences, which we'll share, but tell us about it in general, and what made you think of PPC Profit Club?
Yeah, so been doing PPC Profit Club for around a year now, coming up in April or May. And basically the idea was I didn't want anyone else to kind of struggle like I did. So it's basically all the systems, frameworks, blueprints, a lot of the things we spoke about today, those sort of processes that I spent years, like almost a decade, figuring out. And then I'm just going to give them to you, basically. So you're not stuck, because a lot of PPCs work alone, especially freelancers. And I'm coming at it from the point of view of, as a freelancer myself, I know how like lonely it is sometimes. I know how crazy it is when you're just trying to wonder what to do on an account. There's 2 or 3 different options and you're like, how do I think about this? Right. And I did a lot of one-to-one coaching the last few years, and that's what I've helped people with. So I really just wanted to bring that to more people in a way that makes sense, right? Because of course I could only coach so many people one-to-one. And that's when I started the community last year. And this year is going to be about leveling up together. Like, you've all seen some crazy results inside the mastermind. Like, it's, even things that have really surprised me, honestly, like people collaborating, people hiring each other, people working on accounts together. And it's just been great. Like, it's been so cool to see all the crazy things happening inside. And I'm just really building out this year as well, all the other like blueprints coming from you guys, basically. So it's always been very community led, like whatever you guys need in terms of, budgets is something that's been talked about a lot. So I'm building out something there. AI again was something that I asked and a lot of people wanted to see, and client clarity is another thing that people really want to see and really want to have the questions, have the blueprint to work with clients properly. So it's basically all the systems that I wish I had starting out that I can just give to people now and just make their lives a hell of a lot easier.
And I mean, both Yana and I can, just talk about our experience. So I've managed to just have a great experience in the PPC Profit Club because I was following you for a long time. I literally saw from the outside, I just saw the zero to hero on LinkedIn with the post, especially the digital nomad post. I was actually a very early adopter. I think I posted the link. I joined immediately. And for the first few months, I was just in there looking at how the community was building. And when I actually started to, engage in the community, like actually I booked 1 call with Tomasz. And from there, I got clarity on, just the mindset of a freelancer. That's something that I definitely struggled with, like just, accepting your position as a freelancer and being like, okay, maybe my dream isn't to work for a big agency anymore. Maybe not. And then like being confined with that. And also just like how to proceed. From there, I was able to collaborate with Alex, shout out to the guys at the Curve Agency doing a great job. All of that from the agency, and even meeting Yana, and we just had 1 call, we kicked it off. And then here we are now, right, on the podcast, all from one community, just trying to group people together. And it's been a really great experience for me. I feel like what I've seen, and this is really what I like, is it's one of the only community that's talking about the PPC specialist. Everyone talks about the technical side, which is important. It's the core of our job. But I've never seen a community focus on the specialist himself or herself with, like I said, the mindset, the framework, the prep work before the live action. And I feel like that's very valuable in what you're doing in the PPC Profit.
So appreciate that, man.
So my testimony is that I basically when I've been in PPC for almost 8 years, but it's mostly been working inside of agencies and also working in companies that do a specific thing. So you have a team that you basically just focus on that one account and you grow that account. And then when I started my company, that's when I did a bit more of expanding into different companies, of course. And before that, of course, there was consultancy work, but there was a bit of loneliness as well.
Yeah.
In terms of just finding people who are at the stage that you are, people that are building something, people that are also freelancers as well, and just exchanging notes and information and just having that sense of community, which is something that I found in PPC Profit Club. For me, it wasn't necessarily wanting to understand the technical things, though. Seeing the technical things that are in there, it was like, I didn't know that I needed this. So that also became a benefit in itself. But for me, it was also just looking for community and looking for people. And this way I found friends. Also had conversations with you, Tomasz. For anybody that's listening on the outside, very friendly person, very open. I used to actually be afraid because when you used to go on his LinkedIn, you'd see like 250 million. It's now $1 billion in terms of audits and all of that. So he's now the $1 billion man. That's me shilling. If you aren't in, get in.
Yeah, I mean it's the place to be. And by the way, I'm hosting weekly coffee chats in the PPC. So we started with bi-weekly, but we're moving into weekly coffee chats in the PPC Club, PPC Profit Club. Shout out to Jen who joined last week. Had a great chat with Jen, and that's one of the that's the community side. Like I met up with Jen, who's doing great things in the lead gen space, and I was able to learn so much. We just kicked it off for like 30 minutes, and that's a laid back conversation that you may not always be able to have when, for example, you're maybe contracting for an agency and speaking to another team member. There's certain things that you probably won't say. There's certain frustrations that you probably won't express. Inside the community, we talk freely, we support each other. I mean, only great things. Yeah, anyone wants to join the community, big fan. I mean,
so
yeah, we've
Tom,
been.
yeah.
That was crazy,
So,
guys.
Tom,
I appreciate that so much.
yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. That's so cool to hear your guys' experiences, and yeah, like thank you so much for being a part of it. Like this is only the beginning, and I just can't wait to see what we get up to in the future together.
When did you launch a PPC Profit Club? I think it's gonna be a year old now.
Yeah, damn, like time goes so quickly, honestly. Like this is so crazy. And this is a side note, I guess, about product launches that I've been like working on and researching into so much, which is like that there's really not that many months in a year, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, people take like 3 months off for summer, especially freelancers, right? Whether it's July or August or September or October. So basically, more or less, everyone's away between like July and pretty much like my birthday's end of September. So like pretty much on my birthday, I think everyone kind of comes back around that time, maybe October. But then October, November, December, pretty much everyone's checked out for the year already, right?
Yeah.
So December, January, everyone's away. People don't come back. Like, I don't know about you guys, but yeah, January and February, definitely I was waiting on a lot of people to reply to me. And it's only like now in the end of March, it feels like everyone's switched on again and back in the game. So it's just basically March. April is Easter for most of April. So again, a lot of people are on holiday for April. So it's basically like March, May, that's kind of it. Yeah, it's kind of it.
So for the people who want to join PPC Profit Club, how do they join and what are they going to find inside there? You talked about AI resources. We've talked about community, but just lay it out for them.
Yeah. So PPC Profit Mastermind, they can join at ppcprofitclub.com/mastermind. I'm sure we'll have it in the show notes as well. They're going to get community, courses, resources, one-to-one help as well, and get to be in a community with you guys, which is the main thing, right?
Yeah, we're all active members in the community.
Definitely. And the resources, just give them a highlight of what's the difference between your resources and everybody else's.
Yeah, so if you see my content, I always focus on tactical stuff. So it's stuff that you can apply straight away. And as Fran said as well, like my resources focus a lot on the PPC specialist and the freelancer rather than just technical skills in the account, which quickly really become outdated. Whereas the processes, the systems that you use to, as we talked about, create the right mindset, to have the right processes, to ask the right questions with clients and work with clients properly, those are going to stand the test of time. So in 5 or 10 years, I hope that you'll still be using basically the same processes, right? Even when we have this AI world and this crazy automation coming in. And that's really why I built things out in this way, because it's going to stand the test of time. And people, as we spoke about, like people really need that, right? Google Ads specialists really need that. And there's a lack of that in the industry, which is like, we're all people at the end of the day as well. So it's not just about being the best Google Ads specialist. Like that doesn't really, I feel like, get you that far nowadays. You can be really great, but if you're not promoting yourself, if you're not writing content, if you're not putting yourself out there, it's going to be really difficult in today's world. So just giving you all the systems that you need to do that and make it as easy as possible. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's going to be a hell of a lot easier with the proven frameworks that I've used to get to where I am.
All right. You actually touched on something that's very important, which is growing your presence as a practitioner. So this isn't just about inside the accounts. This is actually growing your LinkedIn, possibly Twitter and all of that. So, and that's something that you actually do actively in there. So it's not just about technical skills. It's also about the holistic thing as a professional. Do you want to touch a bit on that?
Yeah, so released a full LinkedIn course beginning of this year called Content to Clients. And that's really the idea, right? It's not about becoming some massive influencer and going super viral and all this like rubbish. I won't swear. And it's about tactical stuff. It's about actually getting clients. It's about actually getting leads out of your content, right? So I've tested, like I've probably written more than 500 posts now, I feel like, on LinkedIn, and way more, podcasts, interviews, content online. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I've really figured out what works and what doesn't work. I've had, for example, one post made me over £16,000 just from one post, from signing clients from it. And then I've had posts that have gone, and then that was a post that I made when I had less than 4,000 followers. And now I have 25,000 followers ish.
Nice.
And I've had some posts that have gone super viral and have made me nothing, right? So there's a lot of myths out there. So I really just focus on the real, like the actual tactical ways. And I share all my proven posts, proven content frameworks where they've made me the most amount of money, to be quite honest, right? And that's what people want, basically, is not to create a big brand for nothing, which you see quite a lot nowadays. Influencers getting a bunch of likes, but likes don't pay your rent, right? If they don't convert into leads and clients, then it doesn't really matter. So yeah, just sharing everything I know, specifically for Google Ads specialists. I also saw that missing, because there's a lot of great LinkedIn posts, templates out there, but they're really for like personal branding people or SEOs or web development people. Like they're not specifically for PPCs. And so there's a lot of mistakes I see like PPCs make, which I address specifically in the course and in the community, which like the big one, which I've shared already, which is talking to other PPCs, right? So that's something I see all the time, is us talking about all this technical stuff. That's not going to get you clients, right? So you need to talk in your client's language. And that's what I teach in the course. And that's what I teach in the community.
There's this famous content guru that says it's GK Molina likes in cash. I really love that phrase, because it's really the name of the internet. Like if you're not, you can get 1 million likes, but if you're not getting paid, it really doesn't matter.
For sure.
That is true. So Tomasz, we would like to thank you very much for joining us and also hanging on with our growing pains as our first guest. It's been an honor having you. And for anybody that is really stuck on the fence about PPC Profit Club, jump over the other side, because it is as valuable as you think it is. Because you get so many different courses and so many different programs where people promise you things, but then this is us as people that are actually inside, right? That have no reason to promote this except for the fact that we're actually benefiting from it. So no sponsorship, no anything. Like this is just legitimately enjoying being in the PPC Profit Club and just benefiting from it. So thank you very much for joining, and thank you very much for starting a community that has literally impacted our lives on the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for all the kind words.
Thank you. Fran?
Yeah, it was a real pleasure to just jump on a call essentially with you and just ask some of these questions that I feel are going to be valuable for a lot of young PPCers started in the game, because those are some things that I struggled with. And to date, thanks to Thomas, thanks to Yana, just getting mentorship from these experts who are way further than me, and it's been really, really valuable. So Thomas, once again, thank you for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the PPC Profit Club.
Appreciate it, guys.
Cheers.
All right.